How's everybody doing? I'm on a little early. I think I'm just gonna play Diablo until it's time to do lunch, and it's gonna be like half hour or almost an hour. Depends on. I got a cat that's sitting with me, really nice, really nice right now, and somewhere between now and probably 10 o'clock. Oh, here she starts. Somewhere between now and probably 10 o'clock, she's going to start making her case for why we shouldn't have to wait till LUNCH time. Yeah, she's a very good girl. Yeah, she's very good girl. Okay, I cranked up the setting yesterday. This might be a short stream anyways, because if I get killed off, I'll just end the stream then. But, oh, I got me a key. The key master of Gozar. You know, when I was setting it up so I could watch this, there's a channel that I have access to that is, they're showing sliding doors. And, you know, I just gotta say, you know, the idea of that movie, you know, if there had been a sliding door, you know, apparently there is, like, if you believe in string theory, somewhere there is a reality, a little, you know, parallel universe where I was able to bring up the quality issues, get them fixed, and not get, you know, what I, as far as I can tell, drugged or poisoned for caring about quality when I was working for General Motors. I hope the me in that one is doing okay.
I need spirit.
Just a little shout out, please. Right? You know, you don't have this. This isn't like climate change or some of the other shit where it's like a deal breaker. You know, I think you can still be a good person and not really want to go along with it. But if you don't mind, please write.
I don't have enough
Please
spirit.
rate your elected officials and make a case for legalizing assisted suicide for people that are sick or dying. I gotta tell you, I watched my mom die from hospice, and I am well aware of I'm well aware of what happens to people that are homeless.
I need
You know,
spirit.
just please consider it. You know, just get it legalized so that people like me that are sick, people that are dying, you know, and I could be there. I'm not there right now. But every year it seems like it's just a notch worse. And please consider it. I gotta kill all of these guys. Usually it's the second level, but I gotta kill all these douchebags. Okay, we hit the center.
I don't have enough spirit.
Oh.
I must wait to use that ability. I need spirit.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. That I don't remember when it was, but there was an update, and it must have just completely fucked everything up because this never used to be this fucking hard.
That ability is not yet recharged. I don't have enough spirit. I'm returning to town.
I've got some brand new goods you might be interested in.
Okay. There we go.
May the battles never end.
Let us fight this evil together.
I'm gonna go get him last because I might not. Usually those ones that are guarding the key are pretty buffed up, and I might not be able to do that on this difficulty setting. Yeah, Torment. This is just Torment level 1, and this just never used to be this hard. Because I was doing really good on this, and then they had that update, and I instantly start losing characters. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, I don't know if this is going to turn out to be good news for my brother, but probably, you know, since he didn't go into rehab, he'd probably fuck. But and I don't know if the one that's in question is the company that he was getting them from, but the Supreme Court ruled on an opioid case, and they rejected a settlement deal that would offer immunity to the families of the drug makers. Like, they, you know, because basically they had it set up, if I'm understanding it right, they had it set up that if they were sued, the company could go bankrupt, but all the corrupt profits that the pharmaceutical companies had already raked into their personal accounts couldn't be gone after, and the Supreme Court said no, can't do that. But if they ever do settle it, because I'm not, you know, he'll make the excuses, but the fact is, he has got like kidney failure. He's going to dialysis. At least I think that's he's going to dialysis, and I think you could make a pretty outstanding case that it was basically the pain pills that he got addicted to. On some level, I think he did this to himself, but on another level, I do realize that drug addiction, alcohol addiction, they're like real things. You know, you gotta. Hell, there's even like food addiction.
Not enough spirit.
When I was down in Indiana, there was one of these like 2-ton hippos down there, he went through this, and then the guy was pretty good at it. I think he was a little overzealous, but the guy who ran the gym down there was really good at it. He could take these fucking hippos, go in, throw out their food, get them some healthy stuff, and they'd lose the weight. The problem is, you know, it's one of those things where if you don't keep it up, you ain't gonna keep it. You know, it isn't one of those things where, oh, we just need some maintenance and then everything's good. It's like, no, most of those people, my understanding is they have to keep eating a certain way and they have to keep exercising a certain way. They ain't gonna fucking keep it. You know, they'll just go back to being a fucking hippo again. Like, and I think she was a nice person, but it was this big fat lady that was on The View. And once she got on The View, God, I can't remember, I think her name was Star or something like that. Once she got on there, you know, it's like what they do a lot of them. Okay, you're big time now. We want to get you with a trainer. We want to get you with a diet person, and you know, get you to lose some weight. You know, so you'll look better on TV. Right or wrong, you know, that's what they do. And in her case, I'm not saying she needed to look like Jenny McCarthy or anything. I'm not saying she could either. But you know, she could have lost probably easily 100 pounds and still not look skinny. You know, and these people came in and they looked at her diet and everything else, and she basically wanted to eat a pound of bacon every day. And because there was something that came out, and I don't know if it was being reported or if I actually saw a video where she was saying it's been a while. But she literally, you know, snapped, and she's like, she goes, if I want to eat a pound of bacon, I'm just like, well, okay, then look in a mirror, get used to it, you know. You know, you know, there's consequence for bad actions, and that's one of them, you know. Okay, the judge is saying the protective order will only apply to sensitive materials, not all of the discovery.
The storm breaks.
I just want to throw this out there, and I'm gonna try and like, you know,
I need to go back.
preface it with some stuff. We had a guy, and I don't know. I think murder. You could say murder applies, but you know, 'cause pretty much. Every death under a certain circumstances is murder. Like you can say that when Lincoln was killed, it was murder. It was definitely murder, but not all murders are like assassinations. And that guy that was, and this is the thing. Hey, for anybody out there, oh yeah, there we go. They were saying on Morning Joe this morning that that guy that was killed in Ohio or in Utah, he was turned over to the police by the Truth Social, Donald Trump's app. They saw the stuff that he was posting and they were fucking worried, so they turned his ass in. And But here's the thing. On some level, I think what happened to the guy was horrible. I also think on some level it was necessary. If you go back into history and you look at you look at things Republicans have done, or conservatives, or independents, or whatever you want to call these mental defectives, okay? You can, for you younger people, you probably won't know what any of these are, but you can look up something called Waco, Texas. You can look up something called Ruby Ridge. These happened during the Clinton administration, and just like you see now, like if you're watching now and you're aware that there are people sitting there, oh well, look, Donald Trump's own lawyers, it's pretty obvious what the guy did, and they're sitting there, oh well, this is just a free speech thing, clearly you can't arrest him, and it's like, there's an economist, he said, yeah, somebody walks into a bank, pulls out a gun and says, stick your hands up and give me all your money, you can't prosecute him because it's free speech. And he's pointing out what kind of not, but it's shit like that. You've got these people that are running around making it look like Hunter Biden did all these bad things, and Joe Biden was involved. And they just showed a clip this morning. It was on Fox News.
Not enough spirit.
Not exactly a bastion of liberal democracy there. And they got one of Comer's underlings to admit that they really don't have any evidence, none at all, linking Joe Biden to this. And he goes, well, I don't think we ever claimed they did. And the Fox News host said, well, Comer did, the guy who heads your committee. Jim Jordan did, and others have said that you absolutely have factual evidence linking Biden, and you don't. And he made the comment that, well, yeah, but if we start an impeachment inquiry, we got tools. Maybe we'll find something, And the thing that drove me nuts on that, again, your parents, your grandparents might have to tell you this, because this was a few years ago. Wasn't quite the Clinton administration, but. And about these guys. And there was a guy that wrote a book. It's called Clinton Cash, and he's up there with the 2,000 Mules moron and I don't know. In some cases, you could maybe get them with liable lawsuits, but most of the time, Democrats don't like to file these suits because they tie you up in court forever. And when you're a public figure, it's a lot harder to meet the standard where they could get you, where you could get them, And so they usually don't. But this guy wrote one called Clinton Cash, and it accused Hillary Clinton of all this horrible shit. It really did. And as soon as it dropped, the media, and I can't remember which trial it was, but they did a trial a number of years ago, and it's like now, it's like the hearing today. They can't get cameras in the courtroom. They can't report live. They can't even report with a significant delay what's going on. And so what they did was everybody had to be first in the press. Everybody had to be first. So what various ones did, and I think I was watching MSNBC, what they did was they had people in the courtroom, and what they did was they had a signal. Like, I think the one I was watching, they had a scarf or whatever, and if they came out and waved one scarf, it was a certain verdict, and if they came out waving another scarf, it was a different verdict. And that way they could be the first ones to announce the guilty verdict for the non-guilty. And I don't know if it was the one I was watching or one of the other ones. It's been a while. But one of them ran out and showed the wrong scarf, or whoever was waiting for the signal got the signal wrong, but they reported it wrong. And, you know, none of them were really concerned about being the right one. They just wanted to be the first one. Well, that's what happened here. This dipshit wrote the book, and the news stories, they were just going, oh, Hillary did this, Hillary did that. Oh, my God, I can't believe it. Well, and I think it was Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC. She's really old, and she's still pretty good. Well, she's an okay reporter. She's got like a noticeable conservative slant to some of her reporting. Her, I think she either was or is married to Alan Greenspan. He was a well-known Republican economist. He was a big supporter of trickle-down economics, and when the economy collapsed in the Bush administration, after they fucked up in removing all these economic regulations, I saw him when he was doing an interview, and they were asking him if tax cuts created revenue. He said, no, they really don't. And he had never said this before. He let the Bush administration do what they wanted. He supported it. Because what they did was, after like 8 years of Clinton, we were coming up on surpluses. And instead of finishing paying down the debt, instead of getting those surpluses and using them to build infrastructure and all this other shit, there was a YouTuber. He talked about how his country, when they got themselves in a good economic position, they didn't piss the money away like Republicans do. They actually invested it. And he said, he goes, I don't know if it's going to last. He's young. I would say he might not even be, at the time he was doing this, he might not have even been old enough to drink in the U.S. He was over in Europe. He wasn't an American. And but he said his country started investing the money. Instead of giving rich people tax breaks or pissing it away on like a fucking Noah's Ark retreat or some shit like that, you know, or charter schools or whatever, what they did is they actually invested it. And he said, no, I guess I don't know if it's going to last or not, but he goes, if they keep it up, what'll happen is they will start to be able to do stuff with the interest. He goes, instead of doing like what countries like the U.S. is doing, where they have to borrow money to keep their economy afloat, he said they can, they will be able to.
It is not ready yet.
A mighty foe has fallen.
I must wait to use that ability. A vicious strike.
And we could have done that, but no, they had to. And what they did was they got those tax cuts. And after like a year or two, they fucking used up all the extra money. It was gone. We started running it. That was the thing. Bill Clinton almost had the debt paid off under his presidency. And instead of doing that, it took them a couple of years, and they pissed the money away. And we were running like, you know, now we're up into like $1 trillion deficit or something like that. And and they asked him, they go, well, do tax cuts. This is what the Republicans were telling people. You know, this magic math, or as George Bush's dad called it when Reagan started running, this voodoo economics is what Bush Sr. And and he said no. He goes, tax cuts don't do that. And then they go, well, then the tax cuts didn't make any sense. He goes, well, they made sense as long as there was a surplus. But he goes, the minute the surplus was gone, they should have got rid of them. And they go, did you advise them of that? Well, no, they didn't want to do it. You know, and he admitted that they just completely fucked everything up. And then he, at a certain point, he said, look, because I know what you want me to say. He goes, I'll just get to it. He goes, an economic principle, an economic strategy that I have championed for 40 years, and he meant trickle-down economics, has just been proven not to work. And it really, I mean, and you really haven't seen him in public discourse ever since. Well, Andrea Mitchell, I will give her this. She really did the right thing on this one, where she got this guy on. She waited like 1 or 2 weeks after the book came out. She actually did her due diligence as a reporter, which was rare at that time. It still is some days. And she had the guy on, and he wanted to start doing his little razzle-dazzle. And she goes, I just have a question I'd like to ask you. She goes, oh, this one's going to be better. Let's see what the next one. Yeah, well, it's got better armor, and you actually get life after each kill. So we're good there. And she goes, my people have been looking for the last week or so, however long she waited since the book came out. And she goes, my people have been kind of working this. And she goes, where is your proof on Hillary's crimes? Because she goes, no, my people weren't able to locate it. And she goes, and they really worked at it.
Your strength fails.
And the guy, after she said that, she goes, yeah, where's your proof of all this stuff? And he goes, oh, and he was just dead serious. He goes, I don't have any proof of it, but imagine if and I'm not exaggerating this. I don't think I'm exaggerating at all. It's like, oh, well, I don't have any proof of it. Just imagine if the FBI investigator or what they find. And this is the thing, the GOP, and that's why I'm like, I'm looking at this guy. And it's like, he doesn't seem to understand that that's how this works. You gotta have proof before you do this shit. And it's the same thing they did to Hillary. This is something that they did a little bit to Bill Clinton too when he was in office. But it's this Republican idea that what you can do is you can just make something up and try to get somebody investigated. And, and everybody wants to blame Trump. Well, you know what? The Republicans are doing this shit. Trump just used it. But like he said, he told the Ukraine people, he's like, well, look, I don't really care if you actually do an investigation into Biden. Just say you did one. That's all I need. I just need the smear. I just need somebody in your, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he just let him know. He goes, I don't really need you to actually do an investigation. I don't need him to actually be guilty of anything. I just need to be able to smear him in public so I can steal the fucking election from him. Russia can only do so much to help me get into office. And this guy was the same way. He goes, oh, well, he goes, yeah, we never said we had any proof on Hunter Biden, but, imagine if we had we actually did an inquiry into it. The impeachment gives us a lot more tools of what we can use. And it's just fucking disgusting. I mean, it really is. And then the Washington Post, they had a thing today, and I think this is the second one of these they've done. They're like, oh, man, they didn't drop the charges on Trump, so we'll just have to do it again. They're showing their conservative bias with this shit. But they did. It might have been an op-ed, but still, you know, the fact that they're running it, you're like, man, I thought you guys were thought you guys wanted to be a newspaper, not the Inquirer. But they did this, and I think it was the second article where they're like, well, Trump can't go to prison, you know, because he's got Secret Service detail and all that. And they were basically saying that they just had to work something out, where maybe he pleads guilty and can't and won't run for office, but you know, then he doesn't have to go to jail. And I made the comment, I go, look, and it kind of goes with that guy that just got shot. It's like, hey, look, that was like a horrible thing that he died. I'm sorry it was, but it might stop the next one. You take that Chris Kyle guy. This was a moron that came back from it. He was very well, you know, he's very good at what we trained him, shooting people with a sniper rifle. We probably spent like $1 million or so training him, equipping him, and he did what we trained him to do really, really well. You know, and I'm assuming he deserved every medal he got. But the fact is, like, when he came home, he started lying about the medals he won. He was claiming every medal he was ever nominated for as one he had won. Well, that's not how it works. He lied about his confirmed kills. Now, with snipers, there's a lot of your kills that never get confirmed because you're shooting somebody from like a quarter of a mile away in dangerous territory. But he started lying about this. Then he lied about Jesse Ventura. And actually hurt Ventura's career. Jesse sued him and won, and then they overturned it on a technicality. And I don't know if he ever resued the family. By the time the lawsuit actually was decided, Chris Kyle was dead. And you know, then there were people telling him, like, man, if you're going to sue the widow and the family, you're never going to win. Well, he won. And then they kicked it on a technicality. Probably because they had a whole shitload of Republicans kicking money that really should have never been in the suit to begin with. And, well, anyways, he got killed. And I think, you know, and again, you haven't seen too much more of it, but I don't really have anything against the guy. I think he's a horrible person. I think it was disgusting what he did to Jesse Ventura. I think it was dishonorable to lie about your record and all this. And I think it hurt the movie industry. You know, they're not making these shit movies based on fucking, like, because like the people that did his movie, they said, well, we're not trying to make an accurate movie. We're trying to make a movie that Chris Kyle would like and probably rub one out to while he's watching it in the theater. And it's like, well, you guys are horrible people. You know, I mean, you just are. And but if we tell the truth about how he came home and he started trying to help people with PTSD, which I think is a noble cause. I really do. But what he did was he had the bright idea, well, we'll take him to the gun range. And I think he had some success with it. I don't know, maybe not. But it seems to me it wasn't the first person he took. But him and a buddy took a guy to the gun range, and they were gonna cure him of his PTSD. And Pat, can you just be a good girl? I'm not gonna feed you yet. You gotta wait for lunchtime. Yeah, you gotta wait for lunchtime. You just get down. Yeah, you be a good girl. Yeah, you be a good girl. But I'm not gonna feed you early. You gotta wait for lunchtime. You see what time is? Okay, it's getting pretty close. I'm gonna go pretty quick because it's like quarter after. I usually feed her between like 10 after and usually 11 o'clock is her time, and I usually feed her by 10:30. And a lot of it, like if I'm gonna eat and I'm kind of hungry, but if I'm gonna eat, I'll feed her so she doesn't have to watch me eat while she's starving. I try to be decent to her, and like I got her a treat before I came in and started. And I grabbed myself a pickle. She's getting a treat. I'm getting a treat. And but you know, when they did that, if we tell the truth about how stupid he was, because I don't think this was the first guy he tried to help. I might be wrong on that. But what happened was this guy flipped out and killed Chris Kyle and killed the friend of Chris Kyle who was trying to help him. And we haven't seen any more of these fucking morons try to do this shit. So it's saving lives. You know, as horrible as it was that Chris Kyle and that dumb fuck he was friends with got killed. I mean, seriously, I mean this sincerely. It was horrible. It probably saved lives. And this moron in Utah, as horrible as I think it is that he got killed by the FBI, you go back and look at Ashley Babbitt. They were all banging on that door. They were all going to break into Congress. And she got shot in the head. Everybody backed away from the fucking door. You go look at Waco, Texas. You go look at Ruby Ridge. And despite any stories that people want to conjure up to talk about how that wasn't what it was, don't believe it. When those people got killed at Waco, Texas, when what happened at Ruby Ridge happened, and there were other incidents, those were the two big ones, those people crawled back under their rocks for like 10 years. They didn't cause any more problems. And then you take, when George Bush and Karl Rove came in after Clinton, it took a couple of years, but they coaxed all them fucking morons back out from under their rocks, and they've been out running loose ever since. And you take a look at that. There were these terrorists, domestic terrorists, that took over this wildlife preserve in Oregon when President Obama was in office. They should have taken a Waco approach. They should have taken a Ruby Ridge approach. Or should have done what they did with Utah. They let these people run around for months. Kind of like what they did out in Washington State, where they had that. They basically just demilitarized like that those square blocks around the Capitol, and these guys are out there burning cop cars and all this other bullshit, and they just let them run. Well, what happened was, these guys ran around. They were driving around to different counties giving lectures. They were going out shopping for what they needed, and then coming back. And then finally, after like a couple months, when it was coming out that these guys are running loose because the cops are letting them run loose. And I don't know if that was an oversight of Obama, or maybe you had this domestic terrorist faction in law enforcement, because we're finding that out now. That there's a lot of people in the military and law enforcement that need to be fired and maybe need to be jailed because they're anti-American. They're part of these right-wing fascist groups, and they're embedded in the military, kind of like Hydra was embedded in S.H.I.E.L.D. if you watch that show on Disney, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And what they did was they actually moved on them. They were out driving around. There were 4 or 5 of them, and I think the guy's name was Finicum or something like that. Well, when the cops went to arrest him, he did what this guy in Utah did. He drew his gun, and they fucking shot him down as soon as they shot him. And they arrested everybody else. Everybody but 4 people that were at that wildlife preserve fled. They fled in terror. Some of them were in such a hurry to fucking leave the scene of the crime, they left their guns and thousands of dollars worth of equipment there. And they fled. And then when they were surrounded, when they were actually surrounded, when what happened, what should have happened day one finally happened, all but one of them turned themselves in, and the other guy went off doing a podcast about embedded aliens in our leaders, and you know, I mean, it was just some fucking crazy ass shit. But again, if they'd have taken that right off the bat, you know, they just had to go in and arrest them, and if they shoot them, they shoot them. Well, they only had to shoot one guy, and 95% of the people that were there fucking around caved. And this is the thing that the Democrats need to learn. Law and order is not a bad thing. You know, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, but it's usually the lesser of two evils. Sometimes, like voting for the Democrats, you know, that's not necessarily a good choice. It's just the better of the two choices that are going to win the fucking election. You know, that person that thinks you can pray away hurricanes, or that person that thinks, you know, we're voting on time travel, or the rent is just too high. These crazy fuckers with the boot on their head. These people are not going to get in. They're just not. And so I don't know. It just, it is what it is. But they need to do something, and that was the thing I kind of said. I'm just gonna wrap this up, and then I'm gonna go feed my beautiful little cat because she's in here again waiting. She's waiting like, see, I'm not bugging you, but man, I could really use some food, but I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at everything but you. But don't you feel guilty? Yeah. Oh, now she's talking. Oh, yes. Don't you? She's telling me, don't you feel guilty? You haven't fed me yet. And but they wrote this article about Trump, and I go, no. I go, I'm sorry. He needs to go to jail. I go, if he's convicted, he needs to go to jail because I go, we can't put him in segregated population. We can't treat him special. Because I said there was a guy called Ralph Nader. You really have to ask your grandparents or your great grandparents about this guy because I'm pretty sure he died like a decade or more ago. But he was this guy who basically said, he goes, I personally know people, and this is a story I will probably tell all of them because I think it was a really good one. But he said, I personally know people that if they were lawyers and that who, if they were given the opportunity to embezzle like $100 million, now it'd be like $250 million, but $100 million from some Fortune 500 company, and they knew they were going to get to keep the money, and they could go to Club Fed, which is a name for the white collar prisons in the federal government. If they knew, because sometimes those people get to keep the money. And he said if they knew they were going to get to keep the money and go to Club Fed for 2 years or 4 years and work in the puzzle factory and then get out, they'd do it because that's more money than they're likely going to make in the rest of their lives. They get to keep it. And they said there's really no disincentive for white collar criminals in jail. It's like a little, they call it Club Fed for a reason. It's a little bit, compared to regular prison, it's like a resort. And he said, if you want to fix white collar crime, he goes, here's what you got to do. You got to take these white collar criminals who've stolen millions of dollars, and they're only going to jail for a couple of years. He goes, you got to stick them in a jail cell with a black guy that's getting 30 to life for writing his third bad check because he's trying to feed his kids. And he goes, this will take care of itself. He goes, these white collar criminals will not want to go. If you actually make jail worthwhile for them, they're not going to want to go there. It's not going to be worth it. And I go, and that's the problem with Trump. I go, forget Trump. I go, if you let him do house arrest, or if you let him go to a country club and be protected at all times, I go, you're going to have this happen again, whether it's Ron DeSantis, Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever. It's going to happen again because they're going to see it. I go, it's the same fucking mistake that we've made since Nixon. I go, he needs to go to jail. And if need be, he needs to be treated like every other person who's been credibly accused of raping a 13-year-old girl. I'm sorry. Yeah, I ain't going to be able to get the phone. Hope they leave a message. Hope they leave a message by a text or email so I can fucking call them back. But no, I go, it's just the way it is. It's got to be a real thing so that a Ron DeSantis or a Jim Jordan is like, oh my God, because there was this 13-year-old girl. She had something to do with Weinstein. And she accused Trump, and it seemed pretty credible, of raping her when she was 13. Sounds like he did it more than once. And she got so many death threats from these fucking morons, these MAGA fucks that support him. She dropped the charges. Well, he gets into prison. Prison might take care of itself there. Usually, if you're a kitty diddler, you're not treated very well in there. And the other thing, I go, we need at least the possibility that he's going to be another Jeffrey Epstein. I go, we need this. I go, we need it not for him, but for the next guy. We need to send an example. We need to make an example and send a message with Trump to the rest of these fucking criminals in there that, yeah, maybe this isn't your line of work. Maybe you don't want to do this. Maybe you want to go back to what Republicans used to be, law and order people. People that were not scumbags. They weren't terrorists. They weren't scumbags. And I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I can't be any nicer about it, but it's not about Trump, it's about the future of our country. Because if we do not, and again, if he's not convicted, I think we're fucked. But it really looks like he's going to be convicted. And we need to send a message so that there is never, at least in our lifetime, another fucking shitbag Republican that wants to do this. And I'm sorry, they should really look at sending the people from the Bush administration to The Hague for the war crimes they committed. Because that's another thing that doesn't need to happen again. And again, if you don't, we saw it with Nixon, Iran-Contra, the Bush administration. Some of the stuff, I'm not sure Poppy Bush did anything bad. I think he covered some stuff up from the Reagan administration. But we need to send a message that this shit's not going to be tolerated, so they quit doing it. Absolutely quit doing it. So I will talk to you guys later. You guys have a great day. Jess, I'm coming out, man.